Too much for us to do. That's a lot of work. Okay, well, we can do Desmos, and I'll show you how in a little bit. First, let's look at our table and answer all the stuff we can do without getting here, just by our table. We discussed earlier here how to find each individual piece needed for this part right here on our table. So I like, again, to start off with the vertex, and you look at your y values. You look for where they repeat. 3 and 3 repeat, 0 and 0 repeat, -5 and -5 repeat. So my vertex is the center of this rainbow. So in this case, 1, 4 is my vertex. H is 1, K is 4. Okay. Next, my vertex tells you your axis of symmetry. It can help you with your maximum minimum value and your range. My axis of symmetry is just x equals 1. To determine if it's maximum or minimum, look at your vertex. Look at your y values. We know it's going to be a value of 4. Well, is that value of 4 the maximum value or the minimum value out of all your other y's? Comparing to all my other y's, this is my maximum value. And lastly, my range. Again, we are comparing it to the 4. All of the other values of y, when compared to 4, are smaller than 4, so they are less than or equal to 4. Next, remember your y-intercept is where x is equal to 0. So in this case, here's my y-intercept. And I guess I should graph as I go. 1, 4. My y-intercept is 0, 3. And remember, your y-intercept is the same thing as your c value. And then rocks are your x-intercepts where y is equal to 0. So here and here. -1 and 0, -1 and 0, oh sorry, -1 and 3, -1 and 3. As x-intercepts, that's -1, 0, 3, 0. And as solutions, that's x equals -1 and 3. -1, 3. Since they don't specify specifically your domain, specify specifically. It keeps going forever and ever, so your domain is going to be all real numbers. They don't tell you that it stops. To continue the graph, without even looking at my table, because you have an axis of symmetry here, that means it has a corresponding point on the other side that matches it. So here, where it's 0, 3, the corresponding point would be 2, 3. -1, 0, corresponding point would be 3, 0. And then they do have extra points here, so if I did -2, -5, the corresponding point would be 4, -5. All right, so there you have your parabola filled out. And here's the part where I want to remind you, or not remind you, tell you. Notice it's a maximum. Notice if I were to draw 2 little dots up here, it's a sad face. That means your A value is negative because it's making a sad face. So we know our A value has to be negative. But the rest of this can be done in Desmos. I'm going to, again, rewrite this form. All right. Vertex form. If I want to put that into Desmos, it would be y1 squiggle a parentheses x1 minus h squared plus k. Notice my y and x has a 1 next to it, and we'll go over that here in a little bit. Standard form, if I wanted to put that into Desmos, would be y1 squiggle. Y is just replacing the f of x in order for Desmos to do the math for you. So a x1, that's a squared, that's an a, plus bx1 plus c. And lastly, if I wanted to use Desmos for factored form, I'm going to go ahead and write p equals q equals here. It would be y1 squiggle a parentheses x1 minus p x1 minus q. Notice a 1 was placed next to your y and x in every equation, and the equal sign changed to an approximation sign, the squiggle key. So, on to Desmos so you can see. Oh, come over here. In Desmos, you are going to start by pressing the plus key right here to add a table. And then you're going to write the table exactly as it appears. Let's go back to the top. And you'll see that it creates the parabola just like we had on our paper. So first I'm going to do vertex form, and I'm going to type in that formula that I gave you. y1 squiggle a parentheses x1 minus h squared plus k. And down here, you'll notice, I wish I could highlight, it gives you your a value, h value, and k value. So I'm going to go ahead and write those values on my paper. We already have the h and k from knowing the vertex. So now standard form, same idea. y1 squiggle ax1 to the power of 2 plus bx1 plus c. And it gives your a, b, and c value. We already have the c value, and we got the a value previously. Notice they're the same from the vertex form. So the new value here is your b value, which is 2. And lastly, factored form. Off at factored form, so y1 squiggle a parentheses x1 minus p close parentheses open parentheses x1 minus q and then write down your p and q values. So now back here, now that I have all my information as needed, I can plug into the appropriate places in my equation. So f of x equals, a is negative 1, parentheses x minus h is 1, squared plus k, which is 4. And there's your equation in vertex form. For standard form, same thing. F of x equals, a is negative 1, x squared, plus b, which is 2x, plus c, which is 3. And there's your equation in standard form. Lastly, factored form. I have my a, p, and q. So f of x equals a, which is negative 1, parentheses, x minus negative 1, so it becomes a plus, parentheses, x minus 3. And there's your equation in factored form. And the last piece is just putting your a and b over here where it belongs, so negative 1, 2, 2, 2, negative 1, negative 1. All right, you've seen how to do it by hand, and you've seen Desmos.